Alright, so I wanted to talk about my top 3 favorite starter characters. This is based pretty heavily on their, abilities, their passive abilities, and how you can benefit from having their abilities on hand all the time throughout the game, given that you can't switch them out ever. So let's start off right away. This might be a little bit controversial, but Therion. This is kind of for lack of a better idea of who could be more beneficial. He's certainly not my favorite character as far as characters go, but being able to steal items from enemies in every single battle can definitely be pretty helpful. There also isn't much more annoying than when you're traversing through an area or a dungeon or a cave and you see a purple chest and you don't have Therion in your team. It's definitely helpful to have him on hand throughout the game to always be able to open every single chest you run into. Aside from that though, in battle, he's got really great support abilities. Since he's got one of the highest speed stats in the game, being able to open a battle with increasing your allies' physical attack or elemental attack, their speed, just as far as support abilities go, Therion's got some really good ones. As annoying as I find him, I'd say he makes for a pretty good choice for a protagonist. My second favorite would be Alphen. Concoct is just such a good skill. It makes it so that Alphen is arguably the most versatile character in the game. Concoct allows him to do almost anything. He's got a couple of passives that make him an excellent choice as well. Inspiration makes his SP a little more tanky, so it's a lot less likely for him to run out. And if you're ever up against an enemy that throws a lot of status ailments at you, resist ailments adds some serious reliability to Alphen. On a lesser note, his Inquire ability doesn't require a chance roll like Cyrus's does. Instead, it requires Alphen to be at a certain level, which will always be higher than usual since this is your protagonist. Really, the only con I can think of for Alphen being a protagonist is keeping up with maintaining your alchemy inventory. And lastly, my top favorite protagonist is hands down Cyrus. To me, there isn't much more valuable than being able to open every single battle with exposing one of the enemy's weaknesses. Not to mention his ability Analyze, which is such a good tool to have all the time. Aside from that though, his spells are very common damage types, and with Cyrus having such a high elemental attack, they hit hard. He also has a little bit more survivability. Vim and Vigor, his passive, makes him pretty tanky, being able to recover a little HP every turn. Another passive of his, Percipience, almost guarantees you'll never be surprised by an enemy. I think I've been surprised maybe twice in my 100+ hours in this game. Also, his passive, Evasive Maneuvers. Even as someone who doesn't like skipping battles, it's extremely helpful having this handy in dire situations, or even if you're just feeling impatient. But I'll be coming out soon with some guides for each of the hidden job bosses, so keep an eye out for those next week. I'll also be at PAX West this weekend, so take a look in the description for my Twitch channel link if you want to see sporadic updates or how I'm struggling to survive from the sensory overload of PAX West. Also, you should hop over to my Patreon if you want to see behind the scenes stuff like me editing or recording, or if you want to contribute to me possibly getting a tattoo in the near future. Alright, later folks.